Hey, how are you doing? Today is Sunday, March the 22nd, I believe. Yeah, Sunday, March 22nd. I know it's been a while since I've done a video. Last time we left, I was working on a couple things. This is that little McCullough FX or FR 2.0. Fuel lines, oil line, general going over, sharpen the chain, just make sure it's working good and all that. I got all the parts to finish that, but first thing we're going to do is the blower here, the positive pressure ventilation fan right here, belongs to the fire department. If you remember, that was a carburation issue. Carburetor was leaking gas. I got the kit and everything. I've got it cleaned up. But before we do any of that, I've got to give a shout out to a buddy of mine. He's not doing very good. I'm not going to go into great detail. I don't know if he wants me to actually put out what's going on, but I can say that it's not coronavirus. He's got some other health issues, and he's not in the best of ways. So James Faust, buddy, I hope you watch this. Prayers to you. Hope you get better. Hope you beat this. Hope you kick it in the butt. I just hope the best for you. Also for his wife and his family. Hope the best for all of them. I hope he pulls through this, and hope everything turns out good. So James, buddy, thumbs up to you. Get better. Okay, so now we're going to turn around and go down to the carburetor here. My bench is kind of all cluttered up. I've got the McCullough, I've got the 575, got the 576 non-auto tune, a couple other things down below, but this is what we're going to be working on today. Try to get you, that looks like that might be pretty decent right there. Okay, so I've had this carburetor in the carburetor parts cleaner. I just got a gallon bucket of gum out. Got the little metal tray in it. Took it all apart, disassembled it. That was on the last video. Soaked it in the carburetor cleaner for 48 hours, a couple days. Took it out, used hot water to wash it all off. Cleaned everything up. On the gasket surfaces, I just took a Scotch-Brite pad just to make it all shiny. Make the gasket surfaces all shiny. Everything cleaned up really nice. So, took about 2 weeks to get the parts. What happened was I ordered the parts from my regular supply guy, and somehow he had misplaced my phone number. So when they come in 3 or 4 days, he couldn't get a hold of me. Well, I knew that, sometimes he has a little issues getting them in, or sometimes to save me a little money, he'll throw them on with another order to save me some shipping charges. So I wasn't really too concerned, but at about 2 weeks, I thought, man, I better call him. So I give him a call. He says, they've been here for like a week and a half, but I lost your phone number. I figured you'd call. So I did. So anyway, some of it's OE Tecumseh parts. If you remember, this is the SH40, I believe. I'm not going to turn around and look, but this is the fuel shut-off. It was leaking out from around the shut-off valve. 35957. It was $10.97 plus tax. Expensive little piece of plastic. Probably could have gotten it cheaper. A gasket, part number 26754A, and that was $1.25 plus tax. And then a couple Oregon parts. He wasn't able to find the OE parts for these specific gaskets, but Oregon just as good as OE. Oregon part number 49-106, $1.32 plus tax. And another Oregon gasket 49-402, 87 cents plus tax. And I thought I had the rebuild kit right here. Okay, obviously I don't. So let me pause this and I'll be right back. Okay, I did have it right here. It had fallen down here on the floor. This is a kit that covers a lot of different models. It's got a lot of different parts and pieces in here. Some of them that will be used on this, some of them that wouldn't be used on this. Now, this is what they call the universal kit. It's part number 632760B, and it was $11.79 plus tax. So, with that being said, the first thing we're going to do is put the seat in. And I'm not 100% prepared for this. I should have had my little roll pin out. Or not roll pin, but drift punch. I didn't cut that down far enough. So I could take and install that seat down in to the home position. What we're going to do, put the pieces back in here. I'm not going to use these two little felt pieces. The two little felts actually go underneath. These two little felts go underneath here on the throttle rod and on the choke rod, underneath the spring to keep dirt from going in. Them are still in good shape, so we're not going to reuse them. I'm not going to use the Welsh plugs because I didn't knock them out. This particular one here had these little screws. This kit did. This carburetor doesn't have them. Match up my gaskets here, my fiber gaskets. That's one of the originals, so this one will be used. This one here is not going to be used. Here's a couple more little screws. It's not going to be used. I'll reuse the pin for the float. Here's the retainer wire clip for the float. I'll reuse or use the new one there. These two little metal washers, I'm not going to use them. I'll reuse the originals because they're brass. Not going to reuse that one either. There's a little cap, little plug cap that doesn't get used. A little diaphragm washer does not get used. We will use the needle. Make sure that's the right size needle here in a second. And these two smaller O-rings, they will actually go on to the needles here to seal up. So let's see what size we've got. So it looks like it's going to be the bigger one and one of the smaller ones. Okay. So again, this is a universal kit, so okay, looks like that's everything that we're going to use to redo this carburetor. This is the new parts, here's the old parts. First thing is with your nut jet for where your main jet goes in. Okay. Oh, wrong one. Might work if I put the right one in. So inside this housing for the main jet, there's two orifices in there that you need to make sure are open. This is just a tip cleaner for a torch, for an acetylene torch. I'll try to get this where you may be able to see it. There's one hole right there. It's open. I don't know if you'll be able to see down through there. There it is. The other one that you got to make sure is open is right here at the base of these threads. And it's just a little one, and it takes the smallest size, and it goes in at an angle. See how that's going in there? Right there. And again, let's see if we can't see the wire in there. You got to make sure them two orifices are open, otherwise this thing won't run worth a crap. When I took it apart, I believe I talked about this top one here being plugged up. So now that we know them are open, first thing we're going to do, and I know this is probably redundant for a lot of you guys that are watching this, but there's probably going to be one or two people that may watch it that's not had anything to do with one of these carbs, or maybe not experienced what I'm doing here. So this video is actually for them guys, the ones that either haven't done it, haven't seen it, or need a little assistance on what to do. So I put the hanger on the needle. That was the first thing. Now the second thing, this is the needle seat, just a little white rubber. I don't want to drop it. It's white and rubber. And it goes down into the fuel inlet right there. And how I do it is I'll kind of get it started here. Just kind of like lay it right in there. And here's where I'm not prepared, because I got a little drift punch that I used to seat it on home, and I do not have that out here. So give me just a second, I'll go get it. Be right back. Okay, we're back. It's just a 3/16 drift punch is all it is. And I just take that, before I do that, let's pull that back up out of there. I don't know if you will be able to see this. There's one side, there's the other side. It doesn't really matter what side you put into the housing, so to say, because there's no bevel in that seat at all. So again, I'm just going to lay that down in there. And I'm just going to use my drift pin. I'm just going to push it home. And that's all you have to do. I don't know if you'll be able to see down in there. I don't think so. But it's seated all the way down. Like I said, just a 3/16 drift punch. And you don't have to push on it or nothing like that. It just goes down and it'll stop. When it stops, you're at home. To get them things out, you can either blow some compressed air through the inlet here, put a rag over it, blow some compressed air through it, and it'll blow it out. Or what I done is I just took my little dental pick. I was able to get down in there with my little dental pick and fish the old one out because I wasn't saving it. So it didn't really matter whether I tore the old one up or not. Okay, so now we're ready to set the needle and the float into place. And again, you hang the needle onto the float. See how you got that little hanger? It just goes on there like so. Your needle goes down into the opening there. Put your float down in between your two tires there that your roll pin goes through. Not really a roll pin, but just a regular pin. And then put the pin in. Okay, now when this I'm getting kind of ahead of myself here a little bit, but I want to try to hold that together so that float and needle assembly doesn't go nowhere. When this is installed on the fan, this particular engine does not set level, okay? It'll actually set at an angle. So this is the air breather side of the carburetor. So it'll actually be at an angle because you're blowing air from the fan generally into an opening in the house. Just for everybody that may be watching and didn't watch the first one, this carburetor come off of a Tecumseh that is mounted onto a fan that is a positive pressure ventilation fan that's used in the fire service. So it's not setting level, it's actually setting on an angle similar to this right here. This may be a little extreme. So when you're going from level here to here, a lot of your gas is going to be toward the back. It's going to be, the gas level is going to be angled as well. So you don't want to get your float level too low because you could cause it to starve for gas or run lean. But in the same aspect of it, you don't want to get it too high because then it's going to start sucking it up and causing it to run real rich. But you want it to be a little bit lower. This float should be level in most circumstances, but because it's on an angle and the front of it is down, so to say, you want a little more gas in it because now your level is going to be like this. This is extreme, but this will give you a good idea right here. This is a level carburetor. You want your float to be level. When you're on a little bit of an angle, depending on which way you go, you want your float and your gas level to be relatively where it would be if it was running level. So to get it back to where it's level here, you need your float to set just a little bit higher, which will allow higher in this aspect, not in this aspect, because higher here, if you say higher in this orientation, when you roll over, you're actually going to be lower. In this orientation, your float's higher, but it's lower here as compared to being level. So maybe that's how I ought to explain it. So your float's going to be a little bit lower in this orientation to compensate for the angle that this thing will actually be running in. Instead of being level, it's actually going to be somewhat similar to this right here. And this is where that flute was set at when I took it apart, so that's where we're going to leave it set at to put it together. If need be, I can go back in and do some fine tuning in it here in a little bit. Put this O-ring on. This is what seals the bowl up there. Okay, that's pretty straightforward stuff. Now the one thing that you got to keep in mind, see how the bowl has the step to it? This bigger part on this side is where the float needs to be, so it goes up and down inside of it. So I got to find my tire here and orient this bowl according to the location of the needle here. So I want the lower flat part to be right over and square to where the two tires are for the float mount. Just like that. And when you rock it over, you should hear the float hitting the inside of the bowl, which it's doing. Okay. So now we'll take our fiber gasket, put it over our jet holder. And we'll run that thing home. Where are we at here? Okay, we're good. So now at that point, and I thought again, this is what happens when you get all this crap laying around. Okay, let me go get my wrench. I thought I had my wrench laying right here, but I don't. Be right back. Okay. Just get your wrench, and you're going to tighten this up. And you're not going to hog down on it. You're just going to tighten it nice and snug. Just right up until it's nice and snug. That's all you got to do. I thought somebody was going to come in. I heard a car pull up and stop, but it went on ahead and took off and went somewhere else. So now, take your little brass washer, that's for this one, this is for this one, get it down over the needle. This is your idle adjustment needle. So we're just going to get it right in there. And again, you don't need to go crazy here. It's all the way seated there. We're going to come out 1.5 turns with it. There's one, there's 1.5. That should be ballpark. That should get us close. And again, brass washer up over your needle. O-ring up over the needle. And what them O-rings do is they actually seals that from sucking air, seals it from leaking gas. Just snug. That's just go till it stops is all you got to do. Again, we're going to back this out a turn and a half, and that should get us close. Now this carburetor, for all intents and purposes, is done. All we have to do is put it back on the motor. Come back, let me get this mounted up, and get the new fuel line installed, get this shut-off valve installed. I'm not going to bore you all with that. So when all that's done, we'll come back and we'll do a startup. See you in a little bit. Okay. Almost done. Not completely done. Being this is Sunday, it's not going to get done today. Just a slight little issue. Nothing major. This here is the old fuel line. It's a Tecumseh line, so it's not really the same size as a 3/8 fuel line would be. It's a little bit thinner in diameter. I'm not even sure if this will work. Yeah, barely. It's cold. It's gonna be enough I can see it, but I doubt if you'll be able to see it. But we'll do the outside diameter of it. Let me get this over here to thousandths. Measures 7/16 outside diameter. Actually measures 21/64, which is just a touch smaller than 7/16. Okay. It's not going to be real accurate on the inside, but it should be somewhere around 1/4 inch. Yeah, it's actually, because I've got that cut open there. Let me see if I can't snip this off. Get down some good line here. Okay, now let's try and see what we get. Yeah, should be right at 1/4 inch inside diameter. So 7/16 ID, or OD rather, 1/4 inch inside diameter. That's Tecumseh fuel line. They all use that oddball size. A true 3/8 would be, if I'm not mistaken, I'm thinking it's like closer to 7/16 outside, maybe even close to 1/2 inch outside. But what I use is the Oregon fuel line, and this is actually rated for ethanol fuel. Kind of looks like Tygon, but it's not. And this is 1/4 by 3/8 instead of 1/4 by 7/16 or 1/4 by 1/2. I think the regular fuel line, if you buy it from the parts store, measures 1/4 by 1/2. This is 1/4 by 7/16, and I'm actually going just a tad smaller than that on the OD. But this fuel line is actually rated, like I said, for ethanol gas. It's part number 07-258. That is an Oregon part number, and it does measure 1/4 inch ID, 3/8 OD, and a 1/16 inch wall thickness. So the thickness of the line from outside to the inside diameter is 1/16 of an inch. And I get it on a 25-foot roll. Basically $37 for 25 foot equals out to $1.59 a foot if you add tax into it. But what I run into, I guess I need this out to show you. And I never really thought about this when I was ordering parts. I should have remembered. Okay, the fuel shutoff come with 2 new clamps, spring clamps. Here's the 2 old spring clamps. See the difference in the size of the fuel line? When you put that on, even though that goes on and it's loose, when you go on it's going to swell up a little bit, and then this will be a spring tension to seal that up. Okay. Let me unmount the camera. I'm going to shake you around here a little bit. Y'all probably going to be able to figure out what's going on here, but I'll show you anyway. Let me get y'all zoomed out. Okay. So, here we are. Because this fuel line is smaller in the outside diameter than what the original fuel line is that come off of it, even when this is on here and flared out, this clamp, and neither does the new one, have enough spring tension to make a good tight grip on this hose to seal it. So I should have known that, and I failed to remember. I'm going to have to get some new fuel line, or not fuel line, but some new clamps, sorry about that, some smaller clamps so that I can finish this job up. I may or may not bring this back and do a first start on it after this carb rebuild. I'll do my best to get it on camera here. So until then, I think that's everything for this particular project. See y'all later. Hope you enjoyed.